Well, even after what all transpired yesterday, the Pakistan envoy is still meeting Kashmiri separatists. To take it from here, I'd like to cut across to our editor, Strategic Affairs, Gaurav Sawant, standing by. Over to you, Gaurav.
Hello and welcome to a Headlines Today special that comes to you from outside the Pakistan High Commission in Delhi. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Despite New Delhi's reservations, Pakistan's High Commissioner to India, Abdul Basit, continues with his engagements with separatist Hurriyat leaders. Even as we speak, there are Hurriyat leaders who are meeting Abdul Basit. Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani met him earlier this afternoon. You've also had Yasin Malik, who's met him, and Mirwais Omar Farooq of the moderate Hurriyat faction is to meet him in a short while from now. New Delhi is not taking very kindly to this. New Delhi says this clearly indicates that Pakistan is not ready to resume that engagement with India. Now, India's Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh will no longer travel to Pakistan on the 25th of August, where India and Pakistan were to sit together and discuss modalities for resumption of composite dialogue. There is another story here. The other story is this also indicates that chances of Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif on the sidelines of UNGA in September, United Nations General Assembly in New York, appear rather slim at this stage. But before we come to that, let's take a look at what transpired through the day today. And joining me now for the latest is Headlines Today's Shujaul Haq Thakur, who joins us from Srinagar. With me is Headlines Today's Brijesh Pandey, who joins us from the BJP headquarters. Shuja, let me come to you first. Pakistan looks extremely keen to engage with the Hurriyat. What's the kind of backing that the Hurriyat enjoys in Jammu and Kashmir? What's the kind of support that these Hurriyat leaders enjoy?
Well, Gaurav, this entire news of the cancellation of foreign secretary level talks have once again reignited the entire debate of the relevance of separatist leaders in the valley. While there are a lot of people who clearly are saying that the idea of making them untouchables on the ground is something that would not go down well as far as the process of resolution of Jammu and Kashmir and its problem is concerned. There are a lot of problems in like in New Delhi who have a lot of people in New Delhi who have been criticizing the government for engaging with separatist leadership for a long time. But on the ground, to be very precise and to the point, there are a lot of people, including the civil society members, intelligentsia in Kashmir, who have been since yesterday talking about it, discussing how this is going to be actually detrimental to the entire idea of carrying forward or having a hope of having some sort of a dialogue between the two countries on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir.
But this dialogue, Shuja, and I'm sure people of Jammu and Kashmir know that this dialogue between India and Pakistan was not about Jammu and Kashmir at all. This dialogue on 25th of August in Islamabad would have been about the process to be adopted to resume normal ties and composite dialogue with Pakistan. What is the mechanism that is to be adopted? But as sources in Government of India tell Headlines Today, this clearly indicates Pakistan is not ready for resumption of composite dialogue. Let me bring in Brijesh Pandey. Brijesh, the government and the BJP under intense attack from a section of the civil society, the strategic community, and from Pakistan, who say that Narendra Modi's government is not keen on engaging with Pakistan on issues like Jammu and Kashmir.
Well, Gaurav, one thing is very clear, that the government has a specific stand on this, and they have made it amply clear. They wanted to start the slate fresh, and this was one of the reasons why this invitation to all SAARC members and countries, the coronation of Narendra Modi was being done. And they are saying that this was an extension, the secretary level talks was extension, and he just said that it was based on a composite dialogue of how to take the issues between India and Pakistan forward. And they are saying that this act by the Pakistani High Commissioner of meeting the separatist leader kind of jettisoned it. It not only jettisoned the whole process, it also kind of dared the BJP that whether they will be able to do anything on this. And BJP has a clear political line. They have been pretty aggressive, and if you remember during the election rallies, Narendra Modi was specifically very harsh on the UPA2 government, saying that that the government is while deliberating and having talks with Pakistan while they are killing their soldiers and all. So there was no way the Modi government could have been seen seen, entertaining a Pakistan secretary level talk while their High Commissioner is meeting the separatists.
Who are these Hurriyat leaders? Who do they represent? When did they last fight and win elections? We'll talk about that in greater detail. A short while back, Headlines Today's Simi Pasha spoke to the Pakistan government spokesperson, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson in Islamabad, and asked her what is more important for Pakistan, talking to Hurriyat or talking to Government of India. Let's listen in.
It has been a long-standing position. It has been happening for decades that whenever Pakistan-India talks take place, Pakistani representatives, Pakistani officials meet Kashmiri leadership, because Kashmiri leadership is a stakeholder in the Kashmir dispute. And these meetings are therefore meant to facilitate meaningful discussions after taking their views on board with India. It doesn't mean that if India is called off talks, we have to call off meetings with Kashmiris. These meetings were scheduled, and the High Commissioner is meeting them. While Kashmir is a core dispute between Pakistan and India, and this dispute needs to be resolved. We want peace, but we want peace with a peace that is durable, a peace that leads to resolution of disputes. You can't have peace when you have disputes like Kashmir on the table, disputes like Siachen on the table. Realistically, we have to have peace in this region. Realistically, it's in the interest of both Pakistan and India to have peace. It's not a favor that one country would do to the other, so it can hold a gun to the other's head that we will talk to you on these conditions. That doesn't happen.
Well, the question remains, the core issue between India and Pakistan is Pakistan-sponsored terror in India, and that is something that Pakistan appears unwilling to even address. We'll talk about that, but for the moment I want to quickly go across to Headlines Today's Ashar Ahmed Khan, who joins us from outside the Congress Party headquarters. Ashar, the Congress Party was initially very critical of Narendra Modi for inviting Pakistan's Prime Minister to India, and then this resumption of dialogue. They see a flip-flop in this, and also now in Narendra Modi's government calling off talks. What's the Congress's latest stance?
Well, the latest stand, when we asked the Deputy Leader of Opposition of the Congress in Rajya Sabha, Mr. Anand Sharma, about the recent development that the talks will not be held, he said that we want to know from the government what prompted them, what was the assurance which was given by the Pakistani leadership to the Indian leadership that these talks resumed. After all, there were two meetings of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi with Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and the details of these meetings should be made public. What was the understanding that led to resumption of these talks? There must have been some assurance, there must have been some deal, there must have been some details which would have emerged out of this meeting, and those details should be made public. What he categorically said is that the question is not why the talks have been called off, the question is why were the talks resumed in the first place? What was the assurance which the Indian government had got from their Pakistani counterpart?
Let me put this question to Brijesh Pandey. Brijesh, the question that the Congress wants to know, and many say people at large want to know, why did Prime Minister Narendra Modi invite Nawaz Sharif to India and then suddenly call off talks? What transpired in this entire period? Is this a knee-jerk reaction, as many allege?
Well, Gaurav, one thing is clear that when Narendra Modi roamed home and with an absolute majority in Lok Sabha, there were several people advised him that that to get the invitation sent to SAARC leaders, and if the Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif attends the swearing-in ceremony of Indian Prime Minister, it would be seen as a diplomatic breakthrough, which it indeed was, and it drew accolades from all over the world. And it is said that during those conversations there was the talks of a separatist leader trying to meet Pakistani Premier Nawaz Sharif, but he abstained from meeting them. So there are saying that this was based on a body of trust, and what our conversation, I mean, till now it is yet to be made public, but they're saying that it was based on this mutual confidence which generated out of that particular meeting was this secretary level talk was being held, and it was conveyed to the Pakistani counterpart about India's sensitivity vis-a-vis the meeting of Hurriyat leaders with the Pakistani High Commissioner, because it would actually tantamount to the fact that the Pakistan does not care anything about the concerns or the internal domestic concerns of India, and this is exactly what happened. And what sources in the government are saying that if India would not have taken such strong measures, then, you know, I mean, given the tough posturing they have been made, they would have been made an object of ridicule, and there was no point going ahead with a secretary level toss.
Okay. Now, you know, Shuja, yesterday Shabir Shah spoke to journalists before he met the Pakistani High Commissioner and after he met the Pakistani High Commissioner. Today, we've been here through the morning, through the day, and till now, before Hurriyat leaders go in, they say we'll come out and we'll speak to you. But once they come out, they almost zoom out of here. They're not talking to journalists just as yet. We're still waiting for Mirwais Omar Farooq, you know, to interact with the Pakistani High Commissioner. What is you know, the reaction from mainstream political parties in Jammu and Kashmir, you know, whether it's Omar Abdullah's party or Mehbooba Mufti's party or the BJP?
Well, Gaurav, you know, I've been pointing this out right from the morning. All the local newspapers here have this news on the front pages, and almost every political party, including the mainstream political parties like PDP, National Conference, and Congress as well, have condemned the entire, you know, the idea of calling off the entire talks between the two countries and termed it unfortunate. But, you know, one has to understand here one very important point. Till yesterday, there was a debate about whether talking to separatists makes them any important here or gives them any importance in at least in Jammu and Kashmir. But today, because of this entire debate, they have gotten some sort of relevance. That's why you've been seeing them all over the media since morning.
We are outside the Pakistan High Commission, where in a short while from now, Mirwais Omar Farooq is expected to meet Pakistan's High Commissioner Abdul Basit. Now, this engagement continues despite New Delhi's reservations, and New Delhi says this indicates Pakistan is not ready to resume dialogue with India. Let me cut across to Shuja ul Haq in Srinagar. Shuja, what's the way forward according to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, given the corners India and Pakistan have now driven themselves to?
Well, Gaurav, you know, the kind of extreme positions that the two countries have taken is clearly not a very good news for people of Jammu and Kashmir. Actually, you know, if one might you know, look at it from that perspective, there were a lot of hopes that were pinned from the time that Prime Minister you know, Narendra Modi had called the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and he had accepted and visited and was very cordial. People were really hopeful that it could probably take it. They could probably take it to a second level, and some sort of resolution, or at least an idea of resolution, could come forward from this. But now,
how will
clearly,
that happen? What does the Congress party expect of the government? Tell me that, Ashar. What does the Congress expect of the government?
Well, the Congress is very clear that it wants the government, the Prime Minister, to come out clean and say that what are the backroom talks or what are the negotiations which are taking place with the Pakistani counterparts, and what is the logic or the reason behind such interactions which have been done in the last 70-80 days since this new government has come to power. That is exactly what the Congress party wants to know.
Okay. Does the government have a game plan? Well, according to my sources in the government, it is very clear that the ball is now in Pakistan's court. The government gave Pakistan adequate warning. Do not interact with separatist leaders. That is India's internal matter. India-Pakistan talks are far more important. But clearly for Pakistan, now they need to decide what they need to do. How important are talks with India for them? The ball now in Pakistan's court. That is all that we have for you in this Headlines Today special bulletin. Many thanks for watching.